welcome back, listeners. We are here tonight with the amazing Sarah Zambuto. But before I get into that, who she is and why she's here and all that good stuff, we are here, the Hero Whispers. We are supergirls.com is the site. That's 2L, second L for love. I am your host, Jeannie Marie, Chief Supergirl. And I just a little 4-in-1 on who we are, just in case you're new to the show. Supergirls is a platform we created to inspire and empower college women to launch from college to life, because it's a big, bad world out there. And when you graduate from college, it's like a whole new world. So we have to help them, give them the tools to help navigate, like career clarity and networking skills and personal branding, mentorship. And we do a lot of things to help them. We do campus workshops, we have coaching, speaking gigs, and the like. But this podcast specifically, we get to speak to these women and hear about their journeys. And then we also have really cool women like Sarah Zambuto, who's here tonight, who can help these women on their journey, give them some inspiration, some tip in the categories that we just talked about. So without further ado, let's introduce Miss Sarah Zambuto. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here tonight.
She is a networking queen, okay? Just so you know, that's how we met. And she is just phenomenal. She's really nailed her entire career with her networking skills. And her bio, just a quick little blurb about Sarah Zambuto. She is a branch manager in New York City for Adecco, the global leader in staffing and HR solutions. Adecco places a variety of talent for temporary or direct hire roles in the areas of administration, finance and accounting, customer service, human resources, marketing, creative, digital, medical and science, hospitality, retail, and more. Just about everything. They are amazing. They're a global company. Sarah is an avid in dynamic networking, which has had a direct impact on her successful career trajectory. I pulled this quote from her reviews and her testimonials. Sarah is a creative, high-energy salesperson and a genius at connecting people, both to find prospects for herself and to help others, including those who can't immediately help her in return. She manages to make even the most boring networking events feel more fun. Sarah doesn't get too discouraged even after multiple setbacks and stays relentlessly focused on goals. I love that because I think, and we'll talk about this with Sarah, of course, but I think it's so key that she puts out this really good energy and she doesn't really think about herself first. She's putting out the energy to help people, and that is amazing. Sarah, I mean, I have to give you kudos for that because I've seen it in action, and that's, I think, why you're so successful at what you do. Do you agree?
Well, thank you. And yes, it is definitely part of that secret sauce.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I've obviously kind of given away the thunder here, but I mean, the thing I admire most about you is your networking savvy, and these are skills that these young women, they just don't have these skills yet. I mean, it just doesn't. It's not like for a lot of people, it's not innate. So I'd love to hear your story of how you learned how to network, how you became so good at it, like some of your best practices. I'd love to hear your story on that.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to share with your listeners. So thank you again for having me tonight. So, when it comes to networking, I think the first thing to realize is there's a lot of different ways to go about finding networking events and so forth. But I think what's most important is to just realize that you need to go to these events and be okay and be comfortable, even if it feels a little uncomfortable. So I started networking in Chicago back in the early 2000s. I had launched a jewelry line called Chic Gems after I'd been in pharmaceutical sales and my company closed. But I would go to events by myself, and I looked at it as, you know what? A lot of these people here don't really know one another. They're here to meet other people and, make some business connections, make some friends, whatever it is. So going in with just the intention of whatever it becomes. And coming from the mindset of helping others first, which you mentioned is something that I do feel very strongly about. And when you just go in with that open mindset, a lot of great stuff can happen. And if a room does look overwhelming, I always find it's best to start, with one or two people, even if it's just going over to the bar, because once you feel like you've warmed up in the room, it's really easy to then go talk to larger groups. And before you know it, you'll know half the room and they'll know you. So I hope that's kind of a good starting point.
That's fantastic, because the events are something that is probably like networking 2.0. I mean, it's definitely more of a challenging thing than just networking on LinkedIn, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people think networking is just reaching out to people on LinkedIn and connecting or whatever, which it is. Oh, there's a lot to be said for that.
Oh, yeah.
But
absolutely,
the events are definitely, like you said, they could be super daunting. If you don't know what you're going to say, you kind of have to have your pitch. So, like, what was your pitch when you went to these events? First of all, I didn't know you started your own jewelry line. That is so cool. I mean, do you still have that?
No, I did end up closing it down after the financial crisis, but I did build it up very quickly to a 6-figure business when I lived in Chicago. And I even had clients like the mayor's wife of Chicago. So I did grow a very successful business pretty quickly there. But yeah, the network was the key, because I met a lot of other fashion designers just by introducing myself at events, and then we would host our own events. And I guess the other thing you have to look at when you're out networking is just not to have any fear, and just know that it could turn into something amazing, and just give it all you've got. And just coming from a place of bringing value to other people. And when you meet someone great, think in your network, who else do I know that might be great for this person to know, and they could help one another. And by doing that, you create very strong relationships, because then those people remember everything you did to help them. I do meet a lot of people out networking that it's all about them. They want to give you their card. They want to sell to you right there. That's definitely not the right way to go about it. And it's about a long-term relationship is how I look at it.
So, okay, first of all, congratulations on building a 6-figure business. That is super hard. I mean, it's super hard. And we could have a whole nother podcast episode just on how you did that, because it's challenging. Jewelry's a crowded space. We could totally do that. Yeah, I didn't know that about you. So I continue to be impressed by your amazingness, your awesomeness. So I'd love to hear about that more. But yeah, I wanted to focus tonight's talk on network, just because you're super, super, super good at it. And now that you're in the recruiting career track, I mean, it has to be a huge part of what you do, like every day, all day long, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it's valuable in all ways every day.
So how did you get from medical sales, or pharmaceutical sales rather, to recruiting? How did you make that pivot, or were there pivots in between there?
I definitely had some in-between steps getting to this point, but yes, my background is in pharmaceutical sales, medical sales, as well as retail sales and management. So prior to getting into the world of recruitment, I was working as a manager for Adecco, which is a luxury Italian brand. And the store I was working at, after being there about a year, it was determined they were going to close down that location because Hermes was their neighbor and they wanted the space. So we found out with a little notice that our store was going to close, and I was referred to a recruitment agency by a friend to simply see what roles they had for me at other luxury retailers as a manager. And it so happened that they had a business development role for somebody with my background of luxury retail management. So I ended up working for them as business development. I was there almost 4 years. During my time in recruitment, I have worked for several firms, but I did join Adecco in December this past year. So I've just been there a little over 2 months, and I'm just absolutely loving it. But yeah, it was my network essentially that opened that door to getting me into this world. So I can't say enough how valuable your network is.
Yeah, I mean, what you do really well is take a closed door and find a window. It sounds like you've had to do that a few times, and you just don't let anything shut you down. You're very determined.
You know what? I would say you're right. And I wanted to share one of my favorite quotes because I think this says a lot about networking and business and just, looking, to change a career path, whatever it is. But Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I actually have that quote hanging by my computer because I remember it every single day, whether it's calling one more client. And it's so powerful and it's so true. So I love it. So I just wanted to share that with your audience.
That is amazing. And the fact that you have it hanging there so you can see it all the time, right? Like,
exactly.
what gets you fired up? So like when you went back, let's go. I want to go back to the jewelry business and going to those events cold and like, you're saying like you can't have any fear, but like there is fear. So like, what do you do with that fear? What does Sarah Zambuto do to crush that fear? Or maybe you don't have it. I don't know. But how do you do that? Like, how do you go in there so brave and bold? Is there a secret?
You know what? The secret I've learned over time and being in sales all my career, I think also helps is being able to turn on, in front of a crowd or an audience, whatever it is. But I would walk into those events like I have nothing to lose. And by having that mindset, one, that shifts away fear. But I recently listened to Simon Sinek, and he was talking about the difference between fear and excitement is really very little. And just as a suggestion, if you're feeling fear, just instead tell yourself, wow, I'm really excited. And you'll notice like a calming shift because it really is pretty much the same energy. It's just channeled a little bit different. So I would recommend thinking in terms of that. But again, just going in with I have nothing to lose. I can make new friends. And I can't even tell you how many people in New York I'm friends with that I met through some form of networking, that had I not gone to that event, I wouldn't have met those people, wouldn't be having the dinners and the cocktail parties because I simply wouldn't have known them and they wouldn't have known me.
I love that though. I have nothing to lose because you really don't. I mean,
you don't.
You have everything to gain, to your point. And you have like a posse that you developed. So now, do you have people that when you go to networking events, do you have like a group of people, like a team or a posse or like a sorority that you go with to these events, or do you go solo?
I would say now in New York with the network that I've built, I often have people that attend with me or they were already invited by somebody else because my network has spiderwebbed out very drastically in the 9 years I've been here. But there's certainly events I still will go to by myself, and I have no problem with that. I would say that the more daunting ones are if you go to an industry event where a lot of people are there as colleagues from a company. So I did go to a women in pharmaceutical event where that was the case. I mean, there were probably like 10 or 20 people, from one company standing in the corner with one another. That's a little strange to walk up to that kind of group. But I would say for the most part, things that are more networking oriented aren't going to feel that way. And most people are there looking to meet others. And they're very open, especially if you go to somebody that's standing by themselves at the moment looking around. That's a really easy way to start a conversation because they're not sure where to go. So, go help them out to feel comfortable.
Yeah, be their friend. The networking buddy.
Exactly.
Are there any like favorite networking events or networking groups that you like that you would recommend? Like meetups or anything like that?
Absolutely. And I will say Meetup is amazing. One of the keys with that, because there is so much there, is I would, type in the search, what it is you're looking for so that it narrows it down. But even if it's something around a hobby or anything, or your industry focus, there's lots of meetups. But you want to have a look at how many members they already have, and you can get a sense about the past events. And then you just follow them, and then you'll get invited automatically, and you can decide if you want to go or not. But in New York, I would say, and Brunchwork is national. They're in a variety of cities, but I highly recommend Brunchwork. They have great events. Actually, one of them that I attended, I met the president of HBO. He was one of the speakers. So highly recommend Brunchwork. Elevate